You know, I was in my district every week. So, there's a balance between holding a leadership position and serving constituents at home, but never was there a day did I not put the constituents of the 7th District of Virginia first, and I will continue to do so.
Why shouldn't somebody be running scared at this point after an unprecedented loss by a majority leader?
You know, again, I think that, as you rightly suggest, all politics are local, and there was obviously a lot of attention that was cast on our race, but again, I think that our members are in good position in their districts.
I don't really hear an explanation. I mean, maybe he doesn't know, Joe, what happened, but he doesn't seem to explain it.
You know, a lot of people yesterday tried to cast a wide net on this defeat. But if you look at what's happened over the past year, Tea Party candidates have lost in race after race after race after race. And it leads to only one conclusion. This is more about Eric Cantor than it is anything else. Now, he can say, Sam Stein, that he was not disconnected from the values of his district and that he went home an awful lot. But I would suggest any political candidate that spends more money at Washington, D.C. steakhouses than his opponent spends in an entire campaign would probably meet the definition of disconnected in most districts across America. He was disconnected. He had become a creature of Washington, D.C. Also, Sam, one other thing that nobody else brought up yesterday, if you're a small government conservative like me, and you start to get irritated at this guy because he's not connected at home, and he's trying to get rid of conservative party leaders across the state, which he was trying to do, and then you look at his voting record, that through the years he voted for the Medicare drug benefit plan that cost $7 trillion, and they didn't pay for a dime of it. He voted to bail out the big banks on Wall Street that caused this country to crash, so he voted for the bailout. And then he insulted your intelligence by trying to strike a deal on immigration reform up in Washington, but when he came home, he'd run commercials suggesting that his opponent was for amnesty. At that point, you just throw up your hands and say, how stupid does Eric Cantor really think we are?
Well, first of all, let's not malign steak. Steak is great. Everyone loves steak.
Steak is great.
Let's leave steak out of this.
All right.
Secondly, I agree with all those points. You know, we were sort of tallying it up. Eric Cantor had about 4 or 5 Republican refunds the past 4 or 5 years. And when you do that so frequently, when you're trying to rebrand yourself and the party so frequently, you begin to lose your sense of who you are as a politician. And I think people had a lot of difficulty defining who Eric Cantor was. I think he became more of a schemer than a conservative. I think people in his district generally began to thought that he had been out of touch. And I think the immigration stuff, you know, I don't think he was a supporter of immigration reform. He was a supporter of the DREAM Act. But it did insult the intelligence of his constituents when he went back and said, you know, all the stuff I've been saying in Washington, D.C., that's not, you're reading it wrong. And I think people look at him and thought he was a schemer.
Huge confluence of events. I mean, just shocking. And now the rush is on to find his replacement. Atop the short list, Majority Whip Kevin McCarthy, who got Cantor's blessing. Don't know if that's a good thing. According to the Washington Post's Robert Costa, McCarthy is using a paper scoring system dating back to leadership races from the 90s. He's looking to get out ahead of others, like Congressman Jeb Hensarling and Pete Sessions of Texas, also said to be going for Cantor's old position. Joe, you know these guys. What do you think?
I think Kevin McCarthy may be in... maybe he's in a good position because of where he's been, but he is associated with Cantor. He is associated with John...
I mean, isn't that the kiss of death right now, Joe, that he's got Cantor's endorsement?
I was just going to say, organizationally, the way people think inside of that building, that may seem like an advantage. I really believe, though, at the end of the day, you're going to look at people like Pete Sessions, who helped mastermind the 2010 landslide victory at the NRCC, and a guy I've known is a really good friend of mine. And Jeb Hensarling, who's a very, you know, both of these guys seem to fit the mood of Congress much better right now than Kevin McCarthy does. I think this could be, you know, a wide open race.
Who do you think would be best at it, given what the party needs?
Well,
what you think the party would need?
I mean, I think they all have their strengths. I think Kevin's been on our show. He's very good at articulating the message without scaring little kids and pets around the house. Jeb is a good conservative and has a moderate temperament. And I've known Pete for a very long time, so I'm not gonna pick. I think probably I would, if I were there today, I would be looking closely at Jeb and closely at Pete. Just
one of the ironies is.
Harold.
One of the ironies is Eric Cantor was probably the best for them, largely because of his position on immigration and because he was projecting kind of a let's expand the party look, but he won't be there any longer. I would agree with Joe. I think the party, Republicans, if you look at the way they're positioned now and organized now, Jeb Hensarling is probably someone they will look at closely because he's very conservative. He has an alignment with the Tea Party. He probably shocks kind of the mainstream business community, particularly the New York business community, because of some of his views on fiscal policy and particularly some of his thoughts on the reorganization of the GSEs, including Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. But you have Pete Sessions and Jeb Hensarling, and I'd be interested to hear Joe's thoughts on both of them being from Texas. How does the Texas delegation respond, and what does this mean going forward in many ways for Republican politics in the Congress, and I think equally, if not more so important, Republican politics nationally?
Yeah, in 2016, Joe.
Yeah, we shall see. I have no answers. I mean, it's an inside game right now. I would think, though, if I had to put money on anybody right now, I would think Jeb would probably be in the best position. But we'll see.